First up, the consistently bizarre tale of Terry Lovelace. Having had a decades-long career as a successful attorney, Lovelace was a well-respected figure in his local community. While some UFO claimants have perhaps questionable reputations behind them, Lovelace was the polar opposite, a straight-talking and rational character held in high regard. He also had a secret, though, only revealed in the early 2010s, that he had, on at least one occasion, been abducted by aliens. While there are reports of multiple events throughout Lovelace's life, the most widely told happened at Devil's Den, a state park in Arkansas, U.S., in the year 1977. At the time, Lovelace had actually been serving in the U.S. Air Force, pre-law career, when he embarked on a camping trip with a friend known as Toby. Shortly after setting up their tent, however, the pair noticed a blinding blast of blue light beaming out of a nearby, apparently hovering craft. The light reportedly repositioned so that it was directly over both men, and the next thing Lovelace knew, he was waking up. Hours were missing from his memory, but to one side he could see the same seeming craft, beneath which there now appeared to be multiple, small, childlike figures. Lovelace's memory recall began to kick in, and he remembered how he and Toby had spent time inside the craft with those same figures. Toby specifically remembered how the figures had physically hurt Lovelace and himself. The story only came to light many years later after Lovelace's doctor reportedly found an inexplicable piece of metal embedded into his patient's knee, which Lovelace suggests might have been placed there during his ordeal. Next, we travel northeast to Berkshire County, Massachusetts, and 8 years further back in time to 1969. Here, a major UFO incident unfolded that wasn't only witnessed by one or two people, but by multiple groups and individuals, mostly in and around the town of Sheffield. It's said that a massive orb-like craft was spotted, and that in some cases, it chased down its targets before beaming them up into the ship itself. The entity, whatever it was noticed from a number of vantage points, near and far. While some viewpoints were obscured, many were not. One of the best-known accounts comes from one Thomas Reed, who was a child at the time and traveling in a car with his family. Only Reed's family endured some kind of sudden and shared blackout before they came to, again inside their car, but sat in different seats and with a distinct feeling of unease. It's said that over time, they came to collectively remember having been placed in a vast hangar of some kind, presumably during their lost time. Other accounts of the Berkshire UFO follow a similar pattern too. One moment, people were watching the lights from the ground, and the next, they were returned to the ground, feeling wholly disoriented and confused. Strangely, the incident has never quite made it into the highest-profile upper echelons of U.S. UFO folklore, but it remains almost entirely unexplained nonetheless. Of course, not every alleged alien encounter does happen on American soil, and in fact, most countries have some kind of iconic tale or two within their own histories. Tales which are typically dubbed something like the Belgian Roswell or Canada's Area 51. Next, though, we're specifically headed to the UK and to the West Yorkshire parish of Todmorden. Here, in 1980, the police constable Alan Godfrey had been busily trying to round up a trail of escaped cows from the village roads when he got much more than he'd bargained for. In interviews, Godfrey claims to have suddenly encountered a spinning, levitating, diamond-shaped object, once again shooting out light. Next, he insists that he too experienced missing time of around half an hour before returning as if from a daze in roughly the same location, although a little further down the road. He found he was surrounded by swirls of debris, which he believes were created by the departing ship. Following hypnosis after the event, Godfrey arrived at the disturbing conclusion that during his seeming blank spot in memory, he had actually been transported inside somewhere and physically experimented on by unknown creatures. What's more, there are even some suggestions that his experience might have been linked to a previously unexplained death in the area, wherein a man had been found recently passed in a local coal yard, but with his clothes improperly fastened and his hair freshly shaved. That connection has never been proven, however. And finally, while many UFO claimants do subsequently write books to detail what happened to them, such as with Alan Godfrey and Terry Lovelace, it's sometimes the case that a working writer encounters the extraordinary at some point during their own careers. At least that's what happened to the U.S. author Whitley Strieber. Though predominantly a writer of horrors and thrillers, Strieber is also known as a leading advocate of UFOs and for his belief in alien encounter stories, not least because he himself has had not one, but two major experiences. The first, which Strieber details in his non-fiction title Communion, involve the writer being woken in late December 1985 while he was staying alone at a cabin in the woods. It's said that he was approached there by a seemingly non-human figure before, again, a lengthy spell of missing time. Like others before him, Strieber reportedly tried hypnosis in a bid to retrieve his lost memories, through which he was able to build a hazy recollection of his own alien abduction by figures that he refers to as the Visitors. When he released Communion almost 2 years later, and when that book was made into a movie starring Christopher Walken 2 years after that, in 1989, Strieber, like many other UFO claimants, found his story met with skepticism by some, amidst accusations that it was all a hoax. However, he remained adamant that it was the truth, and even alleged a second encounter experience, this time in a Toronto hotel room in 1998. Here, Strieber claims that an unknown, unnamed, seemingly male figure appeared at his hotel door before entering and engaging in an hours-long conversation about many of the greatest and deepest questions of the day and of history, philosophical musings about the soul, the nature of God, and the afterlife, all of which Strieber included in another book called The Master of the Key, the unexplained figure in Toronto being the master in that book's title. So what's your verdict? Which of these stories most strikes a chord with you? Perhaps Terry Lovelace's Arkansas encounter that turned a camping trip into a life-changing moment? Or the Berkshire UFO that left its mark on a whole community? Alan Godfrey's spinning diamond of lost time? Or Whitley Strieber's incredible abduction that he claims was much more than science fiction? In terms of mainstream coverage, none of these examples have come close to achieving the fame of, say, the Roswell incident or the Hill abduction. But why is that? How can such incredible accounts such as these remain so shrouded in mystery and little spoken about? As governments all across the modern world appear to be lifting the lid on variously classified UFO cases, including most notably the UFO capital, the USA, is now the time that we'll finally get concrete answers. Will the likes of Lovelace, Godfrey, and Strieber finally be fully vindicated as their tales are shown to be true rather than false? Or are you still unconvinced? Let us know in the comments, because those are 4 alien stories